Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast. It's available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, or any podcast player of your choice. So subscribe for free once you're done listening to this episode, just in case you're using your web browser to listen. Today on the show, we have audio recordings from the WhatsApp School of Business program that I advertised on Saturday, the 15th of July 2023. The goal of the program was to introduce folks to the fundamentals of doing business in Nigeria and to show how sales and business development principles can help you overcome the harsh landscape of doing business in our dearly beloved country. I also wanted to answer general business questions posed by the participants, and the program was delivered entirely over WhatsApp for the course of more than 1 week. And this is an example of how you can get truly convenient business education in your pocket and learning over WhatsApp at your convenience. If you love what you hear on the podcast and you like daily access to me, to ask me questions related on how to sell in your business, then the WhatsApp Coaching Club is now open, and the investment required for that is only 5,000 naira a month. You ask me anything, I give you answers and assignments to move your business forward. So if you're interested, hit me up on the socials. Don't worry about how to spell my name. I spend most of my time on LinkedIn, and my name, Tabashima Ayede, is the correct spelling. You can find it in the web browser where you're currently listening to this episode. You see the spelling of my name, the email address, and the photo, and it's also in the profile of the podcast app where you're currently listening to my voice. So Tavashima Ayede, the correct spelling of the name, is there. So if you're interested in the 5K, the WhatsApp Coaching Club, the 5K monthly investment, then let me know. Hit me up, send me a message on 080 6466 2140. The country code for Nigeria is +234. And for those of you who are trying to save to start a business, I'm affiliated with a reputable financial institution in Nigeria that has 504 billion naira in assets. And what that means is they're not going to go broke anytime soon. They're a secure organization to work with. They're not going to run away with your money anytime soon. They're in the business of protecting and guaranteeing your savings. This is not a bank, so you're not going to have an ATM card. You're not going to get hit by lots of miscellaneous fees. And you're going to get an interesting, or rather, you're going to get an improvement on the interest that you get from regular savings banks in Nigeria. And then, of course, this is safer than using loan sharks for the capital to start your business, because loan sharks are going to want to embarrass you and your whole family, and they want you to put your father and your mother up as credit. Sorry, not credit. What's that word? As collateral for the loan. So if you're interested, then hit me up on 080 6466 2140 to get started on saving towards your dream. Now remember, it doesn't have to be saving towards a business. Any savings plan will do. People have saved with this organization for their children's education. Let's say, like me, you have kids in primary school and you're wondering about secondary school and the all-expensive university education. And then, of course, folks like my mom saving towards retirement. So if you're interested, hit me up and let's get you started. Now, on with the episode for today. Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to the group, and sorry for starting late. I had left the floor open, or rather, I had left the chat open. Sorry, forgive me. I'm used to making presentations in person, from a stage, and so that's why. Anyway, bottom line, I'm used to doing this in person, so just forgive any slips that might arise. So I left the floor open so that you guys could introduce yourselves. But I've noticed that you're quite a reserved bunch. So even though I've been having some conversations with people in private, nobody seems to be willing to introduce themselves over here. I'm not going to take the initiative or the privilege to start asking people on stage. But so far, let's just say we have people from different nationalities amongst us, even though we're very few in number. So of course, there's a Nigerian, so there's at least two of us. There's an American here. There's someone that's a Saudi nationality, and there's another nationality. The individual, well, he left the group before I was able to chat with him anyway. I suspect it's because he came in and he saw that even though the floor was open, no one was talking, and so he left. But I'll be engaging him later on to see how I can bring him back into the group to make him part of our deliberations. So, so for those of you who are still left in the room, if you check the details, you see that even though we're few in number so far, different nationalities, and so that's a good thing. So introductions. I haven't introduced myself fully so far. My name is Tavishima Ayede. I know that name is a mouthful, but don't worry, you're going to get used to it the more time that we spend together in the next couple of days. I'm a Nigerian business consultant and a sales coach, and that's the reason why the purpose of this gathering is not to go into like I said in the first chat, is not to have woe with me sessions about why Nigeria is such in a terrible space, but we're supposed to bring the best of our ingenuity and creativity, problem solving, business development skills to try and see how we can work through, go around, deal with the problems that we face as a nation. Now, for those of you who are Saudi nationals, one Saudi national and one American, what do you guys have to gain from all of this? It's quite simple. Even though you might not be able to relate to some of the difficulties that those of us face in the Nigerian context, hopefully you should be able to see by analogy how sound sales, marketing, business development principles can apply to problem solving. Not necessarily to solve social problems per se, or a country's problems per se, but how we can use these principles on a very personal micro level to get the job done. Because for those of us who are self-employed, who are business people, that is what we're in the business of doing. We're in the business of getting the job done. Because after all, entrepreneurs, that's what they do. You see a problem in the market, you see a problem in the community, you see a problem in the office, you see a problem in wherever, fill in the blank, and we take up the mantle and we get the job done. So that's what we do. So that's the whole point of this session here, to see how we can marshal that same spirit, that same attitude, the same knowledge to get things done. So like I said, I've been chatting with you guys, private conversations, so I know who is who. I'll be able to tie those concrete peculiarities when I'm looking for examples in the principles that we're going to explore. So let's just go straight to the point. So this is day one. We're going to marshal the difficulties of doing business in the Nigerian economic environment. And we're also going to look at the promise of doing business in the Nigerian environment. So this first recording rather is just going to state briefly what the promise is, and then I'll leave the floor closed for a while. And what I would like you guys to do is to with your papers and your pens, to try and see which of these promising factors tie in most appropriately to whatever business context that you are in. So okay, so let's start off with the promise. Now, lots of people, both local and foreign. By the way, when I say local, I'm speaking relative to Nigeria. So most people, local and foreign, would agree that there's a large promise when we're looking at Nigeria's economic promise. And that's because, number one, because of our natural resources. We've got lots of oil. So there's a forex that we get from this forex that we get from oil proceeds, selling of oil. Well, of course, yes, we also import a lot, so we're not making as much as we could, but, well, the thing is, it's there, and theoretically speaking, there's some upside. Then, there's also the huge gas reserves. Some people even say that Nigeria is actually a gas giant, not an oil giant, that gas reserves far exceed what we have in oil. It's been a while since I've been out of university. My master's was in oil and gas law, so I'm not sure what the current figures are, but yeah, lots of people will agree that we're more a gas giant than an oil giant. So there are those gas reserves that are yet to be untapped. Currently, a lot of them being flared. Yes, gas flaring. Yeah, that's when you burn up the gas, so you can have access to the other hydrocarbons there and distill them to get petrol and diesel and all that. Then, huge mineral deposits. I'm from Benue State. To drive from Abuja to Benue State, you have to drive through Nasarawa State, and there are lots of mineral deposits there, precious stones. Some people say there's gold, but there's all kinds of things, nickel, copper, all kinds of things that are yet to be explored on an international scale or an industrialized scale. So a lot of it is petty mining. So if you ever happen to visit Nigeria, if you're not Nigerian, and you want to do business in Nasarawa or Benue State or states in the north central, and you happen to be leaving from Abuja, you'll be driving through some of these places and you'll see the petty industries or the cottage industries or whatever it is that you call them, people mining by the roadside, by the rockside, and all of that. So there's minerals. And then agriculture, because before we discovered oil, we were a huge agricultural powerhouse. So there's upside that is there. For my in-laws in Edo State, you're heading into Edo State coming from Lagos, you see palm plantations, things like that. So there's upside when it comes to agriculture. And then when it comes to energy or alternative forms of energy, there's some upside there. We have untapped solar resources. We've got hydro. Kainji Dam is a hydro dam. It's a hydroelectric dam. Let's see what else. Okay, we've got untapped wind resources. Then there was also, or rather, there is also huge coal deposits. I think in Enugu State. I think. Should I say untapped? Maybe not, because we've moved away from coal. Coal power stations. We're now looking at Kainji Dam, which is our biggest. What do you call them? Electricity generation. Forgive me, fill in the blanks. I'm not sure what to call it. Electricity generation plant or whatever. That's hydro. Kainji is hydroelectric. Then part of the promise also happens to be our demographic. We have a huge human potential because we have 224 million people. Anyway, those figures are contested. Some people like to say less. I haven't seen any figures that say more, but we definitely are well over the 150 million that people thought we were going to be at this stage, as at the time when I was in secondary school. By the time I was in secondary school, early university, people figured we'd be about 150 mil at about this point, but now we're about 224 mil. Some less, maybe some more, depending on who is giving the estimates. We're supposed to have a census. We're supposed to have run a census just before the election. That got cancelled. We have a new government in, and there's talk of having another census, but we'll see how that goes. Then we have 250 ethnic groups, so we have a diverse population. The median age of Nigeria is 17.2 years, so that means you take us all, lump us all together, you take the average age, and average, we're about 17.2 years old. So we, I guess that's where we get this reputation for being a hustler culture, because, well, obviously, a lot of us are young bucks or young babes, and so we have the we have the verve and we have the get go, to get up and get going and get things done. Then the average fertility rate in Nigeria is 5.8 kids per woman. That's high. Well, compared to the West anyway, that's high. I think the last figures that I saw, I can't remember which country. There's some country in the West that I think is 0.8. I think that's really abysmal. And some country that is like 1.3 or something. Well, anyway, so we were 5.8 and have an urbanization rate of 50%. So that means roughly half of us live in towns. Or let's say, no, maybe not towns. I guess I should say modern settlements. Yes, so about half of us live in modern settlements. Now, of course, it goes to say that, or rather, it goes to point that if we're not able to make changes in the educational sector, make sure that everybody's well educated, then this huge human potential is going to remain largely untapped. So since we've gone about 10 minutes and I don't want to make these recordings too long, I'll bring this session to a close. Where we have spoken about the promise of doing business in Nigeria. We have looked at, first of all, I've introduced myself, Tavishima Ayede, Nigerian business consultant and sales coach. We've looked at the promise being the natural resources that we have, listed out a couple: oil, minerals, agriculture, alternative energy, solar, hydro, blah, blah, blah. We've also gone through demographics, a huge human potential, and we've looked at how, even though there's lots of us and we're very young, and it looks like there's more of us to come, if we do not fix the education problem, because we have high literacy rates Well, of course, that's not something that's peculiar to Nigeria, because for my master's program, I happened to do that in University of Aberdeen in Scotland. And while I was there, I was surprised to look at the UK's literacy rates, America's literacy rates, Scotland's literacy rates. So I'm not saying that Nigeria is better off than they are. Well, we are worse than they are. But for some reason, I just assumed that once you skip the borders of Nigeria and you go to other countries, that in other places people are basically 95% educated or something. But it looks like so far very few countries have hit that mark. So yes, so essentially that's it. That's the promise. So the exercise for today. If you guys have your pen and papers before you, since obviously of different nationalities, look at your country, see if you can itemize what the promise is, especially as it relates to your own industry, and I'll give an example. I started off, before I was a sales consultant, I started off 15, 12 years ago as a wedding photographer. No, let's just say 15. Okay, I've been married 12 years, so yeah, 15 years. Wedding photographer. That's how I started out. And obviously, so the stuff that would have been working in our own favor was the demographic swing. Lots of us being born, lots of us being educated, and middle class expanding at the time when I started my wedding photography. The expanding middle class in Nigeria, so more disposable income for those sorts of things. So those were the sorts of things that were possibles for those of us who are getting involved in those kinds of businesses at the time. So for Nigerians who are listening to this right now, take a pen and paper. Let's go through the exercise. You've listened to what the promise is and see what the promise is as relates to your own industry. So if you're in agriculture, you sell chickens, you sell eggs, you sell yams, you sell cassava, whatever. Let's know what you think the promise is, and I will open up the floor okay, this is about 15 minutes so far, so I'll open up the floor in about an hour, so that if folks want to say what we think the promise is, we let us have it there, and then we'll have one more session where we'll go into that dreaded section, what the problems are. So today, day one, the promise and the problems, and then day two and onwards, we start looking at the solutions. So thank you very much for signing up to the group. Looking forward to having a very what should I say, a fruitful time with you guys here. And my goal is to bring as much value as possible, so engage whenever you want to. If you don't want to engage on the floor, for those of you who have responded to the private messages that I've sent, then please continue in the DMs and we'll take it on from there. It's only if I get to know who you are, what your businesses are, the specific problems that you're facing, that we can make this a very valuable session with the principles that we explore and with the solutions that we proffer over here. So thanks again. I'm your host, Tavishima Ayede. I'll open up the floor soon, and we'll take it from there. I'll be back on the mic to explore what the problems are. So catch you guys soon.